The Duke of Edinburgh class were armoured cruisers designed at the start of the 20th century. Previously, British armoured cruisers had been designed for hunting down commerce raiders. As such, their primary armament tended to be a large number of 6-inch guns, which were useful for dealing with both protected and most armoured cruisers, whilst most of them would also have a couple of heavier 9.2-inch guns, or in the case of the last class before the Duke of Edinburgh's, the Devonshires, they'd have 4 7.5-inch guns, and these would hopefully allow you to either finish off a armoured cruiser or potentially cripple a protected cruiser with 1 or 2 shots. However, this strategy began to change, as at the time, recent naval thinking held that a sufficiently powerful armoured cruiser could be a useful addition to the battle line, and indeed in the 1890s and 1900s a number of conflicts would be fought where armoured cruisers did exactly this. This in turn meant that the Royal Navy might encounter an enemy fleet that had an armoured cruiser division that was therefore faster than the Royal Navy's own battle line made up entirely of pre-dreadnought battleships. And so this situation had to be rectified, and potential enemy armoured cruiser squadrons had to be matched. The result would be the Duke of Edinburgh class, named after Queen Victoria's recently deceased second son, also quite possibly because the year before a pre-dreadnought battleship had been named HMS Prince of Wales after his older brother. This requirement to stand in the battle line would require more firepower, and so the ships would be equipped with 6 9.2-inch guns, although unfortunately, as a twin 9.2-inch mounting was a few years away, this meant that the armament was laid out in a relatively inefficient hexagonal configuration, with a single turret fore and aft, and 4 single turrets on the wings, with 2 per side. There were also 10 6-inch guns as a secondary battery, arranged 5 to a side, arranged in single casement-style mountings. Because of the blast effects of the 9.2-inch guns, they had to be mounted a deck lower, which then put them dangerously close to the sea in anything but very calm weather, limiting their use. The anti-torpedo boat defence was provided by 20 single 3-pounder guns, or 47mm guns, which were mounted considerably higher on the ship, along with a pair of single submerged torpedo tubes, 1 to each side, and a few lightweight torpedoes, which were somewhat optimistically slated for use by a couple of the larger of the ship's boats, I guess perhaps in harbour assaults. Protection would come courtesy of a belt with a 6-inch maximum thickness, and this armour thickness was common to every single modern British armoured cruiser class, except the Monmouths, as well as the first 2 classes of dreadnought armoured cruiser, which would later be known as battle cruisers. The engines gave 23,000 indicated horsepower, which was sent down 2 shafts, allowing the ships to reach about 23 knots at full power using coal with oil spraying. Their displacement coming in about 1,000 tons less than designed, at about 12,500 tons normal displacement. For context, this was only about 3,000 tons less than the contemporary King Edward VII class battleships, and only 2,000 tons less if they'd actually completed on their target weight. Laid down in early 1903, launched in mid to late 1904 and commissioned in early 1906, HMS Duke of Edinburgh and HMS Black Prince were considered powerful enough, but they would need a number of changes to be made throughout their careers, starting with raising the funnels to keep the smoke clear of the superstructure, which was a bit of a problem. The ships would be assigned to home waters in a number of different squadrons, as the Royal Navy organised and reorganised several times over the 1900s, until 1913, when both were sent to form part of a cruiser squadron in the Mediterranean Fleet. Here they were accompanied by HMS Defence and HMS Warrior in the attempted interception of the German battlecruiser Goeben and the light cruiser Breslau. But in a controversial decision, Admiral Trowbridge did not engage the larger ship. After a number of other adventures in the area, the whole squadron was recalled to the Grand Fleet at the end of 1914, and in early 1916 the 6-inch guns were removed from their near-useless positions given the average sea state of the North Sea, with 3 per side being remounted between the wing 9.2-inch guns in what was hoped was a mildly safe from blast effects location. Just a couple of months after this, the ships sailed to the Battle of Jutland. 1st Cruiser Squadron suffered badly. Defence was blown up quite early in the main clash, and Warrior was fatally damaged. A Duke of Edinburgh and Black Prince were forced to evade German torpedoes, which saved them from the attentions of the High Seas Fleet for the moment, but led to them losing contact with the main body of the British fleet. Duke of Edinburgh rapidly found its way back into formation, but Black Prince was not seen again until later on in the darkness she accidentally tried to join the German battle line and was promptly destroyed in a hail of short-range gunfire. This left Duke of Edinburgh as the sole survivor of her class and her squadron. She was then reassigned to the somewhat more intact 2nd Cruiser Squadron, and she would patrol for the next couple of days looking for damaged ships and their survivors in the battle's aftermath. And she'd remain with the Grand Fleet for a few more weeks, before then being reassigned to blockade and convoy escort duties, as by now it was quite clear that the age of the armoured cruiser in the battle line was well and truly past. She would then receive another 2 6-inch guns mounted on the forecastle to help with her new duties, and the forwardmost mast would be replaced with a tripod mast in order to take a fire control director. But she would finish the war without any major further incident, being scrapped in 1920, just 1 year before the next holder of the title that she was named for would be born.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.